The following critique is intended to provide the members of the St. Catharines Camera Club with information to help improve their photography skills. The critics are members of the club. Even though a frontal view of a subject is most times more desirable, this rear view angle gets the whole subject in focus, which would be difficult, if not impossible, from the opposite angle. The simplicity of design, composition, and background make this an appealing image. The background is complementary. However, to make the most of the design factors, a tight crop would be better. Great exposure and details. Great timing for the action. The base is somewhat heavy, taking a lot of space and distracting from the subject. Cropping would help. This is an almost perfect photograph of this subject. The strong graphic design keeps the viewer engaged. The point of view selected is ideal. I want to read the labels on the bottles, and the exposure and colorfulness are just right. It is ironic that the single failure of this image is also in its graphic design. The relatively large triangle of white wall in the lower left-hand corner dilutes much of the impact. Crop the bottom 20% of the image. The result will be a panoramic view which suits the design and to maintain the viewer's interest on the subject. Here is an example of what the critic was trying to point out. The lower image of the three is as was presented. The middle image shows that the big white area on the bottom was reduced. The top image shows that the white has been toned down somewhat, making it somewhat less distracting. I think this image lacks in the technical aspects, but makes up by telling a story that makes this picture have impact. I feel the choice of black and white is good, providing texture and tension. I think the image is soft. I feel some burning and dodging could improve the texture. I feel the image can benefit by providing more separation between the subject and the background. I think the technical aspect of the image falls short. The bike is not as sharp as it could be, and the background is too sharp and too bright to isolate the subject of interest. I feel there can be more post-processing done to enhance the image. Consider removing the large yellow spot from the background. The composition can be improved by making the image a monochrome image and using the bike as a splash of color. I feel this would make it an more creative image and increase the impact of the image. I'm not getting a clear picture of a story. Can one be developed even if it's implied? There are many distractions in this image, such as multiple subjects, straight-on flash reflections, and mergers. Most of these faults may be overcome by using a more selective focus or a different shooting angle. Off-camera or bounce flash or a softer source of lighting will eliminate glare. A longer focal length and or shallower depth of field would separate subject from unnecessary surroundings. This image has a fun subject matter of a red sports car driving down a winding road in England. The big suggestion here is to do some reframing to cut out some clutter and bring the attention of the viewer directly to the red car and still maintain the open road feeling. In particular, the line across the road in the lower portion of the frame cuts the image off before continuing on. The recycle bin and the road signage are also distracting. Don't be afraid of cropping where necessary. Sometimes less is more. Nice leading lines of the road, by the way. Here's a sample of what the effect is of having some of the suggestions applied to the image. Makes for a big difference and more appealing image. The man emerging from the dark of the covered bridge into daylight weaves a nice story. The setting is a farm communicated by the structures in the village or in the image. There is an emotional conflict in the image. While the scene depicts serenity, the post-processing is harsh and gritty. As a result, the message of the image is confusing. The visual design of the image succeeds. Placement of the figure is strong. The covered bridge and the farm structures support the storyline well. Technically reduced application of the HDR effect will improve the visual impact of the image. Great timing to get your subject at this time in action. Image is very much overexposed with burnout beyond bringing back, and the dark tones are too dark to make for a pleasing high-key lighting image. The subject is somewhat floating in the frame. With a landscape crop applied to this image, note how the image seems more solid with a branch as a base. Also note that as you go from the left of the image to the right, the leaves now help stop you from going out of the image. The upper image shows that the burnout was too severe and that it was impossible to bring back details. Great detail in the feathers of this robin and nicely done with the catchlight in the eye. The lighting is quite nice. For a nature shot, it is recommended that the bird or animal not be blocked too much by the things like branches, even if it is part of the natural habitat. If the bird is cooperative and you have the opportunity, try reposition yourself to get a different angle on the subject matter. Sometimes easier said than done, but the less clutter in front of the bird will likely get higher marks in scoring. This image is well exposed, but I think the sky should be darker or have a gradient applied to bring the viewer's attention into the image. Also, the gradient along the bottom of the image may help hold the viewer. The image is well composed, having good element placement and good cropping. The color balance appears correct. The center of interest is obvious, but I feel the image lacks impact and does not relate a story. In this image, the exposure may have been too long to let in extraneous light from the foreground. These type of images take time in planning as to when and where the Milky Way and other constellations will appear. Choosing a pleasing foreground by using a wider angle would create a greater sense of relativity between the Earth and the sky and give a better relationship between them. If you can establish a good setup, you will have time to experiment with exposures and enjoy the stars. Nice attempt at trying to create a sense of motion in this image. The one horse, number 4, and rider are nicely placed in the frame, still somehow does not seem to be the main subject because of the other horses. Something does not seem to be quite right with the space between the trees and the sky, like maybe the clouds were added or the sky darkened. Nice color and lighting. The sky could be a little darker, more dramatic. This image will benefit from a horizontal flip, as there is a strong leading line on the left brings you into the subject, the strong point of the subject, but then the line continues to the right and takes you out of the image because a lot of light on the right side. Looking at the image flipped horizontally, we start at the left with the line of the skyline of the building leading to the line of the bridge, bringing us to the main support. Although the line of the bridge continues to the right of the image, the dark images in the water on the right side and the strong placement of the bridge support keep you in the image, making it a little more pleasing to view. The story is clear in this image, but the image lacks impact. I think the image is well exposed, the color balance appears correct. Improvement can be made to the image in post-processing, such as reducing the brightness of the center portion in matching tones. If the bench were level, it would look a little more comfortable. It's a small detail, but big impact. Maybe a slight burning of the bottom right corner would help keep you in the picture as well. The monotone treatment of the photograph increases the sense of remoteness and isolation. The menacing feeling radiating from the sky can be intensified by increasing the contrast. Do this utilizing the multiply or overlay modes in Photoshop. The visual design utilizing the layered look of the landscape is effective. The visual distractions at the bottom center of the image should be removed. They hinder the viewer from traveling smoothly into the image. I wish the trees in the near field were more in focus. If the image was made handheld, then using a tripod would allow for precise focusing. The exposure is right on.